Hello and welcome. I'm so glad you're here. Today, I'll introduce you to an amazing chronicpreneur that does health coaching and career advising and has a podcast. It's a really interesting story, and she has lots of lessons to share with us. But first, let me remind you that Patients Getting Paid is more than a podcast. It's a membership community where people with chronic illness learn to find and create flexible remote work that both accommodates their health and generates an income. And the support you receive from other chronicpreneurs to help you find your path and travel it successfully is amazing. To learn more or to join us, go to patientsgettingpaid.com. Hope to see you on the inside. After leaving her high-pressure finance job in New York that was making her sick, Kerstin Ramstrom found healing in the work of the medical medium Anthony William, a self-proclaimed medium who offers health advice based on an alleged communication with a spirit. Wanting to share her healing experience with the world, Kerstin became an entrepreneur, holistic health coach, podcaster, and career advisor committed to helping people improve their health. Welcome, Kerstin.
Thank you so much, Kathy. I am so excited to be here.
I'm excited you're here too. This has been a while in the making, so I'm very happy we could get our schedules to coordinate, and here we are. Whoop, whoop.
Woohoo!
So that was quite an intro I just gave on you, and I know it's got a lot of people's attention. But before we get into all that, let's start with before you got sick. Share the story of you up until your chronic illness kicked in.
Sure. So, oh my God, I'm going to do such a typical New York thing and talk all about what I did for work. How horrible is that, right?
Do it. That's what I'm asking now. This is about work, right?
It is about work.
Yeah.
So that's a good point.
Yeah.
I had always been interested in finance, although I majored in math and physics in undergrad. I didn't really know what I wanted to do because, I was
smarticle.
I was 20, right? But I was 20 and I just didn't know. And I liked finance stuff. So after I got out of school, I got a job actually as a temp working at Fidelity Investments in Boston, which is where I'm from. And while I was there, I learned a lot about financial markets and saw some of the different pieces of the business. And while I was working in marketing, which was not necessarily anything I had focused on, but it was fun.
Yeah.
That's when I really got exposed to the fact that there are people out there who run mutual funds and analyze stocks for a living to put into mutual funds. And what I learned in that job in the 5 years that I spent doing marketing was I want to do that job instead. So I decided to go back to business school because I did not have the background for that. I'd never taken an accounting class. I'd never taken any business classes. So I went back to school and was dead set on getting my next job at Fidelity. And I wanted to work in equity research, studying stocks. And I got my summer internship there, which was amazing. And then I didn't get the full-time job. It was a big stretch. It was great that I got the internship. I'm so thankful for that. So when I graduated, I went to Wall Street and I got a job at Bear Stearns, which was an investment bank at the time that has subsequently gone under. And
because you left, no doubt.
Absolutely. Of course, that's why it went under.
Yeah.
Sure. And if anybody actually knows the backstory of Bear, it's sort of notorious because it went under at the beginning of the financial crisis. And, but I spent 5 years there as a sell side analyst, which is you basically write lots of research on stocks, and the people who work at the mutual funds read that, but you're also representing the investment bank who's doing IPOs and secondary deals and all kinds of stuff with companies. So I wasn't necessarily picking stocks, but I was writing research on stocks. And there's a lot about that job that's great fun. But of course, in the typical format of Wall Street, you work your butt off. And so I was working my tail off. I was working really hard, and it was very stressful, and it definitely got to me at times, and it wore on me.
Yeah. I'm thinking lots and lots of long hours, right? Tons of long hours and staring at screens that have lots of numbers. Am I painting the picture correctly?
Well, I'll paint it a little more. I figured out how to nap under my desk.
Oh, wow.
I worked lots of weekends.
Oh, geez.
When they finally gave me my own stock coverage, I worked 60 days straight to get it finished, starting the day after Christmas. So when I say 60 days straight, I mean every single day I was in the office
Oh,
I was in the office on New Year's Day. I was in the office on New Year's Eve on New Year's Eve. Like I worked every day. And I worked long hours. I would be tired. I would try to nap under my desk just to try to get my brain power back. Right. Like, and you and I have
crazy.
spoken about this, like the cog fog
Oh, yeah.
that the people in your community, you guys know exactly what that is. Like I
Yeah.
was already having symptoms of that. And I was having back pain and I was having some other issues that are quote unquote common, but unfortunately people think it's normal. It's not normal. Let's be clear. So
Mm.
I figured out how to try to work around all that. It was very stressful. And then I went to work for a mutual fund in Boston. I left Bear Stearns in '06, shortly before it blew up, thank goodness. But my specialty was covering financial services stocks. And so in 2006, we were just starting to see the cracks in the housing market and the financial markets and everything. And so I covered financial stocks during a financial crisis, which I will tell you is no little bit of stress either.
Oh, yeah.
It's a little less of
Ouch.
a public seat that I was in, but I got lots of airtime around the firm that I was in. And it was, I will say it's intellectually fascinating, but it's extremely stressful too.
Emotionally draining, right?
Absolutely. And at the same time, my father was dying of lung cancer.
Oh, gosh. Oh,
So, yeah. So it was really hard. And so they shut my group down at the end of 2008 after the financial everything had blown up and we had lost assets and performance was on a relative basis performance was very good, but when the
right.
S&P is down almost 40%, you just lost 40%
Yeah.
of your assets. So they just shut our group down. And then I took some time off. I moved to the Caribbean. I started a little company down there. It didn't do a whole lot. It was great fun, but I
Yeah.
had to blow off some steam, right? I needed to do
Yes.
something to take care of myself in the wake of all the hard work and all the stress
Yes. You were
and
healing
and
there.
the grieving. I was
Yes.
absolutely healing. And so it had I've lived this sort of all or nothing lifestyle where it's either super stress or I'm literally chilling on a beach.
Oh, God.
And so
Let's
I
do
did that.
that. Let's choose
Yeah.
to do that.
I like to
And I'll
choose.
go with you.
It's well, I'm in Florida right now. Come
I
on down,
know.
girl.
I know.
And so then I went back and got another job at a mutual fund company. I moved to Chicago and worked there for a while. And then I worked at that job for a couple of years and moved back to New York. And it was nice when I moved back to New York because generally these jobs at the mutual funds, when I moved back to New York, I was actually at an insurance company, but they tend to be a lot less stressful unless you're covering financials in the middle of a financial crisis.
Mm.
And so here I think I'm making a much better lifestyle choice.
Mm-hmm.
And shortly after I had moved to Chicago, I started having health issues. Like you'll be shocked to know I'd gained a little weight when I was living in the Caribbean because,
Mm.
we partied like rock stars.
Oh, yes. I'm familiar with the concept.
Yeah. Like drank a little bit of beer every
Ooh.
day, week,
Cheers, sister. Yeah.
lots of junk food, the whole 9 yards. And
Uh-huh.
so when I got to Chicago in my new job, I was like, okay, I've got to take some of this weight off. It's not even funny.
Right.
And I started doing the Atkins diet, which is sort of similar to keto if you're not familiar with Atkins. And about 8 months later, my hair started to fall out.
Oh, whoops.
Yeah. And I had
There's
lost
an
like
issue.
25 pounds, but I was
I
like,
look great, but I'm bald.
and I literally said to my mom, I said, I'm going to make the choice that I would rather be fat with hair than bald with and bald and skinny. Right.
Right.
But I went to the doctor because I was
gosh.
like, what the hell is going on here? And
Yeah.
she said, well, your thyroid, you've got Hashimoto's thyroiditis. And I'm like, well, crap, what's that? Well, we just put you on
Yeah.
medication for the rest of your life and it'll be fine. And I'm like, I don't want to be on medication for the rest of my life. What are you talking about? And of course, they put me on the medication and it made me want to crawl out of my skin. So that lasted for a week.
Oh.
And I explored a bunch of different options. I found, I think she was technically an integrative doctor. So she looked at things a little more holistically.
Yeah.
We did a test for adrenal fatigue that I tested positive for, which didn't really surprise me because I all of a sudden one day in October of 2012, I just lost my energy. It was so noticeable to me. And it was right in the middle of all this. And I'm like, what the hell's going on? So I'm more tired. So I'm happy I don't have this super stressful job, but like stuff's all of a sudden going wrong. And I'm like,
Yeah.
cut the crap here. Like
Right.
I'm only, I don't know how old I was 10 years ago. So 42. I'm like, this is not okay. So
Yeah.
I sort of struggled through all that. And then after I moved to New York, it just started getting worse. And by mid 2015, my brain fog was so bad. And I'd never heard anybody really talk about brain fog. It's hard to describe to a doctor. Like they're
Yeah.
just like, get some more sleep. You've got a high pressure
Right.
job, sleep some more, don't
Yeah.
go out
And
partying
take
all
this.
that much. Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, I don't want to take any of this. Like I can't take the thyroid medication. I can't take the thyroid medication because it messes me up and it makes me feel like I want to crawl out of my skin. Not a way I'm going to live. I would rather feel as crappy as I did than have
Right.
that. So it was this balancing act. And I knew my head was just off, right? It felt like, I know so many of your listeners are going to relate to this. I felt like I had cotton packed in my head and I just couldn't think. And I was starting to miss words all the time.
Oh,
And
the word fishing. Yes.
And people started noticing my word fishing. I knew it, of course, but then people started pointing it out to me. And it's like, that's when it's getting really bad, right?
Yes.
So I started thinking I had a brain tumor. And that was a scary thought.
Yeah.
I didn't
right.
actually want to do anything about that. I didn't really want to have that confirmed. So I sat on that and
so a
worried
little
about it.
Cleopatra, Queen of Denial happening there.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Except that every day I basically slept at my desk at the office in the afternoon because I couldn't stay awake. And that was when I found the medical medium information, which, Kathy, as you know, I could talk about this all day long.
And she can. I'm just going to tell you, but it's super interesting. So we're going to get to that. But yeah.
So I won't go into all the details, but he has a lot of wonderful ideas of what is the root cause of a lot of these issues. And essentially call it a prescription, despite the fact that he is not a doctor. For a lot of this is just eating a lot more fruits and vegetables and eating healthier, which is a huge contrast from the standard American diet these days. And literally within a couple weeks of starting this, my brain fog started to lift. And I wouldn't have realized it, except that I had made plans to go to Barcelona for the weekend. As a girl does.
Sure.
I used miles and got a cheap ticket, and I just went over for the weekend. And I ate and drank whatever I wanted when I was there, right? I'm on vacation.
Right.
I don't really know how to take my new eating program on the road at this point.
Right.
But I got back and felt so horrible. And I was like, oh my God, I hadn't realized how much better I felt before I left until now. 3 days later, I feel like crap.
Isn't that the truth? Oftentimes it's retrospective, right? Yeah. I hear this a lot from people will let me know that they have maybe gone gluten-free, but they don't notice a difference until they eat some gluten and they're like, I guess it is working for me. Yeah. So I get that. Same idea.
Yeah. Like that contrast was huge for me. And so that really started a ball rolling on taking much better care of my health and really getting into this information that he was giving us.
Yeah.
And really focusing on my health, my lifestyle, what I really wanted for my life. And after about 1.5 years, and I had healed a million things. A lot of them are stupid little things, but a lot of them are pretty big things, like the nasal allergies and asthma that I'd been on medication for. I'd been on steroids for 20 years. That all went away. I used to have all kinds of back pain. I mean, there's all kinds of stories on that. That has gone away. I haven't had back pain in 5 or 6 years at this point. It's heaven.
I'm shifting right now because, girl, I'm trying everything right now. I got a chiropractor. I got a PT. I've got a massage therapist.
Girl, okay. I've been there. I had an acupuncturist. I had everything. I had all kinds of drugs at one point when mine really went bad that I was allergic to all of them. That was really awesome.
Yeah, sounds great. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so, I've sort of been through the ringer on that stuff as much as anybody has, right? But after 1.5 years, my health had gotten so much better But what I started to realize was the way I was living my life was not
The
essentially
lifestyle needed to change too, not just the eating and the
right. And
okay,
so this
light bulb
job that I
moment.
had,
Yeah.
huge light bulb moment. And this job I had, the people were not nice. They were not easy to work with.
Yeah.
Um, I could go on about that. It was really essentially an emotionally abusive place to work.
Ah, jeez. Yeah.
And so it was not fun. Like the job that I had looking at stocks, I've always thought was fun, but dealing with the personalities at this place was not fun. I was
Oh,
getting
that's a
stabbed in the
shame.
back all the time. There were things that should not have been going on. There are things people should have been fired for that they were not firing for that are illegal. You're managing people's money. There was bad stuff going on there. So I
Stress, stress,
finally,
stress, 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 stress. Yeah.
and I walked into that every single day. And I would sit in my little office. I was in an internal office. My whole front wall was windows that looked at a beige wall.
Pretty.
So I also didn't
Happiness
have sun.
inspiring.
Exactly, right? I sat in a cave all day, every day with crazy people around me. And so I finally made the decision that this was not for me and that I was going to need to leave. And so I interviewed for some other jobs, but I noticed that my heart was not in it. Often when I'm trying to interview for another job in that industry, there's a lot of prep work, especially if you're starting to focus on some different stocks and whatever, because you've got to do stock pitches. It's a lot of work to prep that stuff. And my heart wasn't in it. And so ultimately, through all of this, and I was doing some emotional work at the same time to really try to get me through this, I'm going to say as cleanly as possible, but try to address some of my own mental stuff over this, right?
Yeah.
Like
you wanted to clear out the mental shit. You don't have to keep it clean on this. This
perfect.
Is my show.
Okay, very good.
And you know
Yay!
me. I will let an F-bomb fly if I feel I need to. So feel free.
Perfect. And now that you say that, when you were a guest on my podcast at the beginning of this year, I did have to make
me?
a little, no, I had a little explicit tag on that one. I'm like, I think there's an S-bomb in there, which is fine.
Yeah, explicit tags follow me.
Yeah, which is fine. It's perfect.
So I am on brand.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I worked on Wall Street, so I'm known to have
You've
a
learned
filthier
a few?
mouth. Yeah. But so as I was working through all of this, I finally decided that I was just going to quit. I was just going to go travel for a while and figure out what was next. I decided to get my health coaching certification because the one constant through all of this was I was so passionate about how much healing I had done, just mostly by changing my diet, but really learning about some of the different things that go on in our bodies. And so I was getting my health certification in that last year that I was working, and we were just talking about this 4 years ago yesterday, I just walked in and quit my job.
Wow.
And it was, I made it very clear to them why I was quitting. I put it in writing because I knew they were going to make up some stories about why I was quitting.
Smart. That was really boobsy. And I say boobsy instead of ballsy because for lots of reasons, not the least of which, balls are not that tough, but boobs are. Plus, boobs are life-sustaining.
Amen to
right?
that. I love it. Yes,
yeah, we are some
absolutely. So,
but I digress. Sorry.
It's okay. And so I walked out.
Yeah.
And I went home.
Move.
And a boobsy move. And I went home and I spent that afternoon playing some George Michael Freedom and cleaning out my suit collection in the closet and throwing out the ones that needed to be thrown out and taking the ones down to dress for success that needed to go to somebody else.
Yes.
And I started packing up my apartment, and there might have been a couple glasses of wine in there too for celebration.
Yay. And that's healthy.
Yeah. I don't know about that, but it was definitely needed. There are times
mentally
balance,
healthy.
Right?
Yeah.
Exactly. And so at that point, I wasn't done with my health coaching certification. I wasn't ready to start practicing. I really just needed a break. And so I went and traveled. I went and spent a couple months out in Sedona, Arizona, which is just heaven on earth for me. And then while I was out there, somebody had reached out to me from Cornell, which is where I got my MBA.
Mm.
and said, we're looking for somebody to work in career services to help the students who are interested in doing equity research and asset management, exactly what I had been doing for the past,
Yeah.
16 years or whatever it was. And I said, I don't really want to work right now. Like, I don't want to do this. Why would I want to do this? And then they came back to me like a week later and said, but we really think you're the perfect person. And it was somebody that
Mm.
I had gone to school with, who I knew well, who had approached me on this. And I said, okay, well, let me talk to, the head of career services. And I had a really nice conversation with her. And she said, it's only going to be 5 or 10 hours a week. And, it's not that much money. But I said, well, I'm planning to go to Asia and travel around there for a while.
I was
So
going to say, if you want to have more Barcelona weekends, it doesn't hurt to have a little something, something coming in.
yeah, exactly. Well, that was sort of the thing. It's sort of the offset, because she said,
Yeah.
well, it'll get you a nice dinner. I said, I'm going to Southeast Asia. I said, that's going to pay for my hotel and all my food all day to work for an
Ding,
hour.
ding, ding.
Ding,
Yeah.
ding, ding. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do this and
Yes.
see how it goes.
Yes.
And I also thought, well, this is a compliment to wanting to do my health coaching, because it's giving me a chance to do career coaching on
Right.
something that I know extremely well.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started doing that in October of 2018, right after I got to Bali. I was taking calls at 6 a.m. I was
God.
doing calls 6 to 10 a.m. Bali time, which was about 6 to 10 p.m. East Coast time. Students didn't seem to mind at all. It sort of got
Yeah.
those meetings out of the fray of their day with classes and everything.
Right.
And it was great for me because I'm a morning person. So I'd get up early and I would do that work. And then I'd go off and go scuba diving or go running around or whatever it was that I wanted to do.
So good.
And that was great. And so I've really appreciated that, that I didn't go looking for that. I know
Yeah.
there's a lot of people in your audience who are looking for different jobs,
Yes.
but I bring this up not to say, oh, look how lucky I was, but I never would have thought about this
Right.
being an opportunity. And it's one of the things that's been so great about it is also coming off working at a place where I was definitely not appreciated. I was definitely trying to hold a standard that nobody else was trying to hold. I was
Right.
being a pain in the ass to a lot of people
Mm-hmm.
because there were things going on there that were a problem that I just could not put up with.
Yeah.
And I went back into a place where like the assistant dean is one of my close friends from school. One of the administrative people we have a fund, a student run fund at school. The person who runs the administrative aspects of that is somebody I went to school with. The professor who teaches the curriculum associated with it is somebody that I met during my internship program and have been good friends with now for 20 plus years. Like that school is just packed with people who've known me forever and who appreciated me. And so there was a
Yes.
really good self-esteem boost that came out of that
Nice.
too, which is so important.
So important.
And I know for lots of people, especially when you've had chronic illness and had to leave a job, it doesn't feel good, right? You didn't
Does
leave
not.
going out on top. You left because you had to, and there was
Mm-hmm.
generally some sort of impairment that was preventing you from doing that job.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not empowering, right? And so the
Mm-hmm.
great thing about this situation is it put me back into something that was very empowering.
That's so good. And I just want to take a second to bring this back because you said, I know that, your community is looking for something. And so I felt like this kind of came to me.
Mm-hmm.
But I just want to challenge that a little bit. It's something I talk about a lot in my coaching, and we talk about a lot inside the community is if you things can't happen to you. These gifts can't fall at your feet, so to speak, if you're not out there. So that just didn't come out of the blue. Somebody knew you. Somebody knew about you. Somebody knew maybe that you were the perfect fit. Somebody knew maybe that you were open and available. The point being, these gifts from the universe come when you are out there and you let people know things about yourself and like that what your intention is, what your goals are, what your hopes and dreams are. People inherently want to help other people. Most people want to help other people. And when someone says to me, I'm looking for something, or I'm starting to think about doing something else. It is just in my head. And when I see something that jibes with what they're looking for, I immediately think of them and I'll send them something. So, point being, you have to get out there. You have to share it with the universe, what it is that you're wanting to do and hoping to do and looking to do and starting to do. And that's when you start seeing these gifts that, seem to just end up at your feet. But you put it into the universe, you put it into the beginning stages of all of this, and without putting it out there, without people knowing you, without, there's a lot of you involved, but you can't just keep it all to yourself. Sorry.
Yes.
I'll crawl off of my preacher's pulpit now, but that's really an important point that I think people miss.
And you are absolutely right. You are absolutely right. Because in the year before I was approached about that job, the friend of mine from school who approached me about it, I had had a couple of occasions to speak to her on the phone about different school related things, because I was always involved with school, even when I'm not working there, but I was always a very involved alumni. And so she knew that she had known the year before that I was not happy with this job, that I was considering just walking away. She knew when I quit. She knew I was traveling.
Yes.
She knew exactly what I was doing, which is why she knew that I also would maybe be the perfect person for this, because
Yeah,
I didn't have a
right.
lot of other commitments.
Yes. And networking is key. So I guess maybe that's the takeaway too, is networking is key. I tell my kids who are both in college right now, good on you for learning all this stuff, but I'm here to tell you, it's not so much what you know, it's who you know. So
It is
uh,
who you know. Absolutely.
you've got to put it out there. You've got to talk to people. And those in this listening audience, if you're an introvert, that's okay. I'm here to help you. I really can help you with that. Come into the membership. This is the kind of thing we talk about, and I can give you some actual verbiage and some templates. And, I get it. There's everything in there from extreme introverts to extreme extroverts, and there's a comfort zone in there for you, but you have to be able to get out there and let everybody know what's going on. Not everybody, but key people, and then they let people. That it's this whole ripple effect. Anyway, I keep jumping in. I'm sorry.
It's okay, because it's such a good point. And it's so interesting that this has come up, because this is something I talk about when I am doing career coaching with my students. And I tell them this business, and granted, there's a lot of other businesses besides just equity research and asset management and money management that operate this way. Networking is critical.
Mhm.
And I always tell my MBA students, I know you may be shy to start making cold calls to recent alums or to different people at different firms, but I said, they are expecting your call. They
Yeah.
had to do this too. And today is day one of when you start your network in this business. And yeah, it always sucks right at the start, right? It
Hmm.
feels awkward and it's weird, but it's the only way to start. And I give an example when I was in business school and I was having this problem. So I relate to this as much as everybody does. And I'm not an introvert either,
Uh-huh.
but I get a little weird on this sometimes, right? I
Hmm.
feel like I'm bugging
It can
people.
be really uncomfortable.
It can be, because I know how busy these people are. And I'm like, I am literally just bugging you. You know, I'm looking for a job and I know you don't have a job for me. But the guy who was doing what I'm doing now, he had said, here's somebody that you should call in Boston. Go do an informational with her. She's a good person for you to talk to. And I put it off, and he bugged me about it. I bet it took me 3 months to call her. And finally he was like, go call her right
Do
now.
it.
And so I called her, and, I was up in Ithaca, because Cornell's up in Ithaca. So it's like a 6-hour drive from Boston. It's not right around the corner, but
Yeah.
I went and did some time in Boston, and I probably met with some other people while I was there, or I did it when I was home for something. And we had a really nice conversation. It didn't go anywhere, and that was fine. And that was probably in 2001, I would guess. It might have been in 2000. When I moved back to Boston in 2006, when I left Bear Stearns, I ran into her at a Cornell networking event, because those are always helpful places to go
That's
network.
good too. Yeah.
And she and I became great friends. And at the moment, she is staying about 20 minutes up the street from me here in Florida. And so I'm
Very
getting to see her
cool.
now. Like, we've been good
Yay.
friends ever since.
Yeah.
And she is not only a good friend, but she's also a good business friend too. And so you never know how it's all going to come. You never know which connection is going to help you get that job.
So true. Yep. 100%.
Yep.
Love that. All right.
Yep.
You and I could talk.
Oh my God.
As we often do.
Yes.
For hours.
Yes.
Let's rein this shit in. Okay. Let's talk about your business now, your chronicpreneur business. And I meant to say this earlier because I think a lot of people know about medical medium. Some people might not recognize that moniker, but they may have heard about the celery juice, right? Isn't that what
celery juice?
Like everybody knows about the celery juice. So I just wanted to give him that little plug and maybe connect some brains with that's who we're talking about. So you found out about him. You did a lot of what he was doing. You really healed. You recognized, like with me with PGP, once I did what I needed to do to get myself straight and generating an income and taking better care of myself, I was like, hello, obligation. You need to share this shit with people, right? Like,
absolutely.
Be a good human. Be a good human. Share this. So that was the basis of your chronicpreneur business. And
yes, absolutely. It's like, I feel like I found some of the secrets of the universe. How the hell do you not share that with other people? Right. Like, come on. So
what does your chronicpreneur business do? Tell me everything.
Yep. So my chronicpreneur business is, I have a health coaching business, and it is supporting people who are healing using medical mediums protocols. And I have spent the last 6+ years living and breathing this lifestyle that I could not be more obsessed with. I sort of laugh. I was saying to somebody the other day, I've never stuck with anything in my life for 6 years. Like, I'm not married. College wasn't 6 years. I never worked at a job for more than 5, but for goodness sakes, I've stuck with this longer than I've stuck with any of that. And I'm still so passionate about it. And I remember what it was like back when I started out, and all of the fits and starts and screw ups, and trying to figure out how to navigate this, and trying to figure out what exactly I was dealing with, and which would be the best foods and the best supplements and stuff to try to help it out. And so that is what I do for people. I help them do that and help them with a roadmap to put them on the path forward so that they can heal. And I do a little bit of emotional work too, because that ended up being such a big part of my own path.
Yeah.
I'm an emotion code practitioner. It focuses on releasing trapped emotions. That's a whole other conversation we can go into.
Yes.
But it's fascinating, right? It's literally just energy work, which until I found the medical medium lifestyle and really started cleaning out my body, I was really not in touch with my intuition or a lot of the emotional side of myself. And once you start pulling off and detoxing out the food and the gunk and everything else, it opens those pathways up more. So that has been fascinating. I love the work. It's just like working with the students. It's like, I'm trying to put them on one path to help them get a job. And with the health coaching clients, I'm trying to get them on another path so that they can get healthy. And I could not love it more. And so
great.
I really cracked down and started my business 2 years ago last weekend, on the first weekend of lockdown in 2020.
Well, happy anniversary.
Thank you. I had just helped my mom move to Florida from Massachusetts, and I was about to leave. I was going to go travel some more. And it was like, oh, you're not going anywhere. And I'm okay, this is the perfect time to start working on my business.
Right.
And, figuring out all the facets of that. And so this is where my journey gets entrepreneurial. And Kathy, I know you know how this goes. Like, the first thing I had to do was I sat down to create a website so that if people found me, they'd have some place where they could read a little bit about me and make an appointment. To say I have no background in building a website is the understatement of the century. But I figured it's lockdown.
I got some time.
I got nothing else to do, right?
Right.
I'm not going out of the house. Like,
right.
Okay. So the first, I'll call it 3 months, were essentially building the website, finding
Ouch.
a lawyer, trying to get, I set up an LLC in order to give myself liability protection.
Smart.
I already had practice insurance, but I wanted to make, I'm a business person, right?
Right.
I wanted to make sure my foundation was in place.
Yeah.
And when I was a stock analyst covering that, I can sit and look at somebody's stuff and judge it. Setting it up is a completely different path, right?
Yeah.
And so it was fun though. I mean, I've loved the experience. Sometimes it's frustrating, you know how it goes, but
I do.
overall, it's fascinating to dig into some of this stuff because I love the learning and the growth of
Yeah.
it all as well.
Yeah. And there's a lot of both of those things.
There is.
So, you have a podcast, which
I
I
do have a
love.
podcast.
I love it.
Yes.
And you do one-on-one coaching.
Yes, I
Um,
do. Can I
and
talk about the podcast a little bit?
please. Yeah,
Okay.
it's awesome.
So one of the reasons I started the podcast was, of course, it's a piece to complement my business, to put my name out there, to sort of get me recognized as, hopefully sort of a key authority person in this community, because
Yeah.
the medical medium community, it's pretty big. I mean, he's got probably 4 million followers on social media. There's probably a lot more people that follow him that aren't on there. But the question was, how do I sort of set myself apart? Because there are a lot of people who've started becoming health coaches, because there's a lot of other people in the same boat as me where they were so damn inspired by
Yeah.
what they experienced with this, that they want to help others too. So I was trying to figure out how to set myself apart with that. So I've got the podcast. It's called Quest for Healing. And about half of the episodes are people's healing journeys where they've been healing with this information from a variety of things. I try to have on different people who are healing from different things. And then about a quarter of them are on different emotional healing techniques and modalities. And then another quarter is on people and companies that are doing things that support the lifestyle that we're living. And, one of the things that's sort of hard when you've tried to clean the toxins out of your body, you're also trying to clean the toxins out of your home. And that can be everything from, pesticides and cleaning products and beauty products and a million different things. We get exposed to tons of crap. And so I keep trying to find more companies that are doing that so I can help people.
Yeah.
And anything we can do to make it a little bit easier. If you're staring under your kitchen sink and you're like, oh my God, I've got all these cleaning products for all these different things and they're all full of crap. What do I do?
Right.
Well, I had somebody on who started their own cleaning products company. It's literally what I've used now for a year and a half. It's 2 bottles. I use it on everything in the house and it works.
That's so
awesome.
great. That's so
and
great.
It's not toxic. So those are some of the things I try to promote there. So that has been fun. I love doing the podcast. I was so happy when you were on it a few weeks back. You were on my first episode this year. I apologize because I don't have the episode number right here in front of me, but we talked about patients getting paid and my audience just loved that episode. I know I just sent you another comment just the other day of somebody who listened to it and so appreciated it.
And thank you for having me on there and giving me the opportunity to spread the good word of PGP. And lots of people have come on over. We've got lots of people from your podcast that have joined PGP. So shout out to you medical medium folks.
I love it.
Yeah. So the monetization, can we talk about the monetization?
Absolutely. Hold on. I'm going to look up your episode number first because I feel so remiss that I didn't have it. It was the January 5th episode number 64, Pursuing Flexible Work That Complements Your Life, with Kathy Reagan Young.
Whoop, whoop. There she is. That foul mouth bitch. Monetization. Obviously coaching, that's one-on-one, that's fee for service, that's hours for dollars.
Hours for dollars. Yep.
Enjoyable, certainly. Helpful, yes. Scalable, hell yes. You can scale that to group coaching. You could scale that to a membership. There are lots of opportunities. I'm just trying to help people, connect the dots. So you can start one-on-one, you can grow beyond that. I happen to know because we've become friends, you don't have sponsors per se for your podcast, which is an opportunity for folks, ads, opportunity for folks, but also these folks, these products and whatnot, you are an affiliate of. So that's a
Yes.
whole nother workshop and training we have inside PGP on affiliate marketing. And so basically, you find and vet these products and companies, have them on, talk about it. You have set up an affiliate relationship, which means you get your own unique URL. And when you promote a product and someone uses that URL, they don't pay a dime more than they would otherwise without that URL, but you're getting a commission because of your promotion and basically your endorsement of that
Mm-hmm.
product. If I got that right?
Absolutely. And I
Yeah.
will say, when I'm with the companies that I'm working with, I'm also trying to get the people who use that link a discount.
Nice.
So they're actually paying less than what they
Nice.
would have paid. And I get a piece too at no additional cost to them.
Nice. Nice, nice,
Yep.
nice. Well, those are all very viable and scalable, may I say, and in some regards quite passive. Not the coaching part, but the affiliate marketing can become quite passive. Monetization strategies and good ones for everyone to hear about. Were there any others that I missed?
I will say I do have a small group program that nobody knows about. You're the first one to hear about it. That I'm putting together right now.
Okay.
That you actually knew about a couple of days ago because we were talking about some different aspects of that. But I'm
acting surprised though. Wasn't that good?
I know you were doing such a good job. Absolutely. Sorry to the editor. Heavy metal detox smoothie that went down the wrong pipe.
Steve will take care of it all. No worries.
Thank you, Steve. I'll try to keep that clean. Now I need Steve to just tell me what I was in the middle of saying.
Your new group coaching experience, the small group.
Okay. Yeah.
So
I think I finished talking about that. Well, also I can say it. Well, at any rate.
So tell me about this small group thing that I am pretending not to know about.
I don't want to get into it yet because I don't have it finalized.
Oh, okay. All right,
so we'll
Steve.
cut that out.
Cut the entire
Thank you, Steve.
part of that out. Okay, got it. So is that any other things that you wanted to share about monetization?
So one of the things I would share about that is you can find a lot of people who talk about building businesses online. And, my coaching business is essentially an online business because I do my sessions with people from all over the world and I do them over Zoom. So it's essentially everything is online. I meet the people online on social media, or people find me through the podcast. They can go to my website. Everything I do for my business is online. There's a lot of aspects to this that take time to build. And it's important to remember that when you're starting out, because often it doesn't happen overnight.
Yes.
And it's one of the reasons why I've been really appreciative of having the Cornell coaching business, because it's not a ton of hours, but it's kept me with some consistent income while I build everything else.
Yeah.
And so with the podcast, I generally tend to attribute most of the, I have word spoken ads about my affiliates on the podcast, and I generally attribute most of the income from that to the podcast, although I have those links in other places as well.
Mm-hmm.
And at this point, that covers my costs of producing the podcast for, I've got some software that I need for that and some calendar software and a few other things.
Hosting, all of that sort of thing.
Exactly.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
And so the costs on that are covered and I make a little bit above that. And then when I think about the coaching business, there are fixed costs for all of these businesses, right? Like I just had to pay the annual fee for keeping my, my LLC here in Florida alive. And that was, I think, $140. Like there's costs.
It's spendy there. It's only $50 in Virginia.
There you
Move to
go.
Virginia.
Well, everybody
Come
wants to
home.
be in Florida because
I
guess
know.
what? We
Yeah,
don't have income tax.
I know. Rubbing our noses in it.
They
Nice.
get it from us one way or another, right?
Right.
So it's important to not just think, oh, I can just have a few coaching clients and that's it. Like there's
Right.
other behind the scenes stuff that needs to happen and needs to
True.
support that business. It doesn't have
Mhm.
to be huge infrastructure, but there are other things that take time. And I felt like even knowing that in the deepest of my hearts, having covered all these companies, it was something I had not really focused on when I thought about starting my coaching business. So it
Mhm.
is, you've got to remember you've got some baseline fixed costs.
Yeah, yeah, that's a great reminder. Thank you for that. Um, what do you do for health insurance?
I have health insurance through the health insurance marketplace here in Florida.
Excellent. Excellent. And I just want to give it a quick plug for that because over the years that has, well, we won't even go into the politics of it, but it has gotten a pretty bad rap in some areas. And I have recently looked into it and I have been pleasantly surprised. There are a lot of changes that have gone on, let me just tell you, in the last few years since I had looked at it. And it's better coverage and it's less expensive and they have increased the subsidies. And I say all this to say it might not be right for you, but don't write it off. I mean, don't write it off. Don't just assume because you heard a while ago that it wasn't good or whatever. Take a look at it, healthcare.gov. And of course, this is all for our US listeners because I always get emails from people all over the world going, what the hell is wrong with your country and the healthcare system? And this is not the forum for it, but I am confident you 100% agree with that, that
I
sentiment.
absolutely
Like,
do.
what the fuck? Okay.
Well, in my last job, I actually covered health insurance companies. And
Oh,
so I
oh,
saw a lot of what went on with what
yeah.
was
What
happening with the
happened?
ACA. And this was back, 2014 to sort of 2018. So we were
Hmm.
still trying to get used to it. Florida was an especially troublesome state. And one of the challenges in Florida is so many people, when they get older, move to Florida just at the moment when they're going to consume
Right.
so much
Need
more
that.
health care than they ever were going to consume in their lives. And so you end up with a skewed pool down here. And
Yeah.
so it makes it harder for them to price it because Florida sits on such a huge bolus of the healthcare
Right.
costs.
Right.
But they do have very good subsidies. I am on a subsidized plan, so mine is very reasonable. The full price plans are pretty expensive. I'm not going to lie. Like
Yeah.
single person, it was like $800 a month, but I'm thankfully not paying that right now.
Right. 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 Yeah. Just
But my
check.
goal some days, I'll be happy to pay that because I'll be making enough money to afford it, right?
Exactly. Exactly. So, do you have any special tools or apps that you find helpful either in your work or your chronic illness that you want to share with the community? I'm
Did
going
you
to
ask
say
this question on my questionnaire? Because I
yes.
am not coming up. What did I say?
Well, I don't, I just wanted, you didn't answer.
Yeah, that's because I don't have any.
Okay.
Okay. So it's the
That's an
same
acceptable
answer.
answer. That's an acceptable answer.
Yeah.
How about for organization? How do you keep things straight? Like QuickBooks, spreadsheets? Do you do any of that kind of stuff?
So to keep things organized, I have Trello, if you're familiar with
Hmm.
that,
Yeah.
which is a very customizable program where I use it primarily for the podcast. I have an entry for every episode so I can keep track of
Smart.
the 30 or 35 different pieces that I have to take care of. And I can sort of check the boxes. I'm one of those people, I love to check the
Oh, me
boxes.
too. Me too. It makes me so happy. It's ridiculous. Yes.
It's completely ridiculous, right? Like I get as obsessed about checking the boxes
Oh,
in that
yes.
as I do on my national parks passport book,
Oh,
which is another check your box thing that
okay.
I'm
I
just
love
obsessed
that.
with from my traveling days. So
Listen,
Trello, I love.
this has gotten so bad that I will check before I go to bed at night. I'm looking at my calendar and all of my tasks that so if I didn't get to something, I move it to the next day. But those things that I get to check off, oh my God. I don't smoke, but I could. It gives me that much enjoyment and satisfaction. I'm like, oh, that's right. I did that. I did it.
You did it. Perfect.
Did it. Okay. That's it.
Um,
What
for
the hell?
accounting stuff, I will say I used accounting software.
Yeah.
And it was not an expensive one. It was probably $15 a month.
Yeah.
But I eventually stopped using that because I didn't like the way it rolled up my info. And I just built an Excel spreadsheet. And I will tell you, I sat down to do my taxes on
Not
Monday.
long ago. Yeah.
Yep. I did it on Monday. And last year when I did my taxes, I had to file for the business.
Yeah.
And since it's a sole proprietorship with an LLC structure, it gets filed on my personal taxes. And so there's a section in TurboTax when you're doing your taxes where you go through all that.
Yeah.
And what I did last year was I regrouped the expense lines on I basically have I have a basic income statement of revenue and expenses, but then I have sort of a blown out section at the bottom with a lot more lines of my expenses. But I only have so many expenses. I've got like editing software and hosting software and calendar software. And,
Yeah.
There's
Online businesses just have software.
And I have them all itemized. So I
Yeah.
put them in every month so I can keep track, but I grouped them down there using the groups that TurboTax used to group my expenses because they ask you for roll-ups on those things.
Okay.
So when I did my taxes in 2 hours. This week,
Wow.
2 hours. In, out, done.
So good. That is so good.
And the business piece took no time. I mean, it took me, I spent probably an hour organizing the documents and stuff. Yeah. But since I already had it all organized in
that's the point. Okay. And
spreadsheet.
this is why this is a question I ask every chronicpreneur that comes on here, because what I'm trying to get across is organization is key to everything. Organization will simplify your life at the other end of it. It will keep you on track. It will help you for those days that you're experiencing cog fog. It will help dial down your anxiety. Organization is key. And if you're not an organizational guru, don't worry. That is also something we have trainings for inside Patients Getting Paid, but it makes a world of difference for lots of reasons, not the least of which is it only took Kerstin 2 hours to do her taxes this year, which is huge.
And it is huge. I mean, our tax codes here are ridiculous in the United States. It's amazing how complicated they've made something that really doesn't need to be that complicated.
Right?
And let's be clear, I've got an undergrad degree in math and an MBA. I am very financially savvy. I know how to use an Excel spreadsheet. My spreadsheet is not complex.
Oh, keep it simple. Keep it simple.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
all things, organize and keep it simple. Yeah.
Exactly. Right. And I boomed through that section on my taxes in probably 15 minutes.
Oh, so good. So good. Okay. So you did mention that you started an LLC, and I interviewed an attorney, my attorney actually, about this, and just asked, like, do you need to put a legal structure in place when you start a business, before you start a business? How do you do that? And I always ask everyone I have on here, and most people have started it. But what he said is you do not have to right at the onset. But what I always say is, why wouldn't you? I mean, protect yourself, right? You gave every good reason to do it, and I 100% agree. So, what advice would you give to other chronics who want to do something more flexible or remote or, full-time side hustle, whatever? What advice do you give to folks who are maybe aspirational about starting a chronicpreneur business?
Choose something you're passionate about, because it is the thing that when you get frustrated, and I promise you will have your moments when you get frustrated.
Roller coaster.
Exactly. Like it's different than going to work every day and, punching your time card and collecting your paycheck, right? It's all you. And it is going to flex muscles you didn't even know you had, and be ready for that. But it can be a fun challenge and it can be a frustrating challenge, but make sure the bottom line of what you're doing is something you're passionate about, because it's the thing that'll carry you through.
Love that.
At the moments when I get frustrated, I think about all the people that I interview for the podcast and some of the amazing healing stories they have. And it's like, that's why I do this, because I know that behind them, there's 100 people for every one of them, or 1,000 people, or 100,000 people who are dealing with something. And if there's anything I can do to help that, oh my God, like what's more satisfying than
what
that,
a gift.
right?
Yeah. So it's a gift to you and it's a gift to the world. That is the best definition of a chronicpreneur business, I think. So if people want to learn more about you or maybe sign up for some of that wonderful coaching or find your podcast, where do they go?
Fantastic. Thank you. My website is carefullyhealing.com. My podcast is Carefully Healing, and it's on all the major podcast providers. You can find it. It's pretty easy. I've got 71 episodes at this point, so there's a lot of variety in there, especially if you're looking for healing stories. I am on Facebook at Carefully Healing. I am on Instagram, where I'm a little more active, at Carefully Healing with Kerstin, which is Kerstin.
Yay. So go get some Carefully Healing. So you've also been kind enough to offer a free quick start guide for our PGP audience today called 5 Easy Steps to Get You Started on Your Health Journey. How do they get that?
Fantastic. Yeah. So that just has 5 easy steps, and it is all based on medical mediums information, but it's 5 basic things that you can start with, and you don't have to do them all on day one.
Yay.
It's just a good place to start. And people can find that at podcast.carefullyhealing.com/getting started.
Nice. And as always, these links will be in the show notes. So don't, don't freak yourself out and drive off the road trying to write this down. I got you. Kerstin, thank you so much for being here today. It was fun, and thanks for sharing your journey both as a chronic illness warrior and a chronicpreneur. I really appreciate it, and I know this episode's going to help a lot of people. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me on, Kathy. I'm always happy to connect with you, and I'm so happy that I don't know. I really hope that this helps somebody, and I wish all the best to you and your audience.
Thank you so much.